Welcome back everyone to the Hello World guys. This is another episode of the 3D renderer series, and in this video we are going to learn to actually make our lights in our screen a bit more interesting. So currently you can see we have got some basic lights here, and we just have one light in the scene, and that we set to our camera, and we can set its color here, and we set the position equal to our camera position, and that light works. So what we want to do is we want our scene to have multiple lights, and we can use those lights separately. So in order to do that, well, first we need to actually read the lights from the actual FEX model, because like we can have add lights in Blender and then export them here. And the other thing is that currently we are only going to implement point lights, and maybe we'll do some other kinds of light later, but for now we'll implement point lights, which we have already implemented in our shaders. Now when we want to do the light, there are basically two things we need to do. First, we need to actually store the lights on the CPU side and read them from the file, and then we need to handle the shader side code for that as well. So what we are going to begin with in this video is the shader side code. So you can see we have got a bunch of different things here, and the most important one is that we have got our light color, light position, and these are the basic two things that we have got. Now what we are going to do is, instead of this, what we will do is we will let's remove that, and now what we are going to do is we are going to create a struct here like we did earlier, and this is going to be a uniform, however. So we'll create a uniform struct which we will call light, and well, let's put the name out. We don't actually need to put the an explicit name for the struct. In here we will only have a vec3 position, position, and a vec3 called color. So we'll also create another vec3 here, and we'll call that color here. So now here we can go ahead and give it a name. We'll call it lights, and we'll make it an array, and it will have as many in it as max lights. So we'll make it have we'll create a constant called max lights, and which its size would be equal to. So I'll go up there and say hashtag define, and we'll say max lights, and we'll define it to be something like let's say, for example, 128 is enough, or maybe 64 is also enough. We'll make it 128, and it will basically be an array of structs which we can access from our uniform here. And you can see we have got this here, like we are calculating the ambient, specular, and the diffuse. Now what we'll do is we have got our ambient strength here. We'll also have another vec3 here, which is going to be a uniform vec3, which we'll just call in ambient color. So ambient color here, and what we'll do is we'll copy this and use that instead of our light color, because the ambient light should only be applied once. And now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and you can see we are calculating the diffuse here as well as the specular. Now we will do that inside of a loop. We won't actually do that just like this, but instead of that we'll do it inside of a loop. You can see we are calculating this IS and ID here separately. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and allow me to just go ahead and do that. And yes, what we will do is we will actually use a diffuse here. So we'll go and say 4, and 4 we can just say for example int I is equal to 0, and I is less than max light. We'll just go over each of those, and we'll calculate the lighting for each light. Now the problem is that we won't have necessarily max lights in our scene. It's possible that we have got less lights than that. If we have got less lights here, we want to make sure we also have a uniform light called num lights. The reason we have it separately is because if you got all of those lights, you could say that we could set the color to 0, but it would still do the calculations, and that would be very bad. So what we will do is we will get the minimum of these two. So whichever is smaller, if num light is smaller, we'll choose that. If the number of lights is greater than max light, then we'll ignore all lights beyond it. Now what we are going to do is we are going to make our final color variable declared at the top, which we'll just set to our ambient multiplied by material.diffuse. Now from here we are going to remove the ambient from the equation, and we are going to move this inside of the loop, and now we will actually add to this. And of course we won't declare it again, we'll just add to that variable that we have got here, and this will make sure that we get all of the lights here. And of course the other thing that we need to change is that we need to make sure we get lights I dot position, and not our light pose variable, and that's pretty much it. We also need to make sure that we use lights I dot color, so here like that. So it's a lights I dot color here, and I'll copy that, and we'll use this here as well. and that is going to pretty much allow us to have multiple lights in our scene, and that's going to work quite well. Now the other thing that we need to make sure to do is just to make sure that it's still working correctly, we are going to go ahead and say lights I light 0 dot color, and you can just set arrays like that using this kind of syntax here, and it's really easy to do that in when setting uniforms. And you can see we set the first light's position to that, and first light's color to that, actually not position. And for the position we'll also set it to camera position, but we'll use light 0 dot light 0 dot color, actually not color, position, and we'll add that here. And for the color, let me make sure that we are doing that correctly. And now let's run this. Now before we run this though, there are two things we need to make sure we do, which is that we set the ambient color, which was the new thing that we introduced, and also the other number of lights, and we set the number of lights to 1. And the problem is that you need to make sure that you have got an override for integers as well. So if I go under shader.h, you need to create a new set value override here, which takes an integer, or else it will try to set it as float, and that won't work. So we need to have another integer here, and we'll use gl uniform 1i instead of 1f for setting that. And we need to make sure we set the num lights to 1, since we only have 1 light, and set the ambient color, and we'll set that to white as well. And now if I run this, we'll be getting what we were getting in our previous video, which shows us that our new system is working, and all that's left to do is to actually get the lights from the files and then use them here. So we'll do that in the next video. Make sure to stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and bye.